Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for all my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears up to some of the travails and tribulations that take place throughout our cities, our states, our country, and sometimes around the world. And I got one out of the archives that I think is very important. That's coming to you straight out of California. And this story has everything to do with knowing, here again, your state laws just as well as you know your federal. And this is a classic or a very unique case about XXSX by fraud or deceit, and how you can go to jail for it. So this scenario ended up on the books in the state of California. It may not apply to the state of Illinois or the state of Missouri, but this gentleman got in a bunch of trouble by SX, by deceit and or fraud. And I want you to listen to this case very carefully, where he faked being a doctor to pursue a number of women into SX, and got into a criminal situation because of it. This is a very unique case. It goes all the way back to '86, but it can be applicable today, especially with people doing internet using internet dating sites, and you're meeting people that are strangers. Stranger danger until you get to know them, and you don't know if they're telling you the truth about who they are in many instances. So let's see about this one. Police seek more victims in cure fraud case. Man charged with getting women to have SX as treatment. A man who allegedly has persuaded more than 7 women over the last 3 years to pay him for SX to cure non-existent disease has been charged with obtaining SX by fraud in connection with the case of a 23-year-old Orange County woman, officials said. Anaheim police said they hope that more publicity about the arrest of Daniel Caton Borrow would prompt other possible victims to come forward. So this is a very unique case. Borrow, 44, who was given the nickname Dr. Feelgood by police and the news media, was arrested for allegedly persuading a 23-year-old Orange County woman to pay him $750 for SX to cure what she believed to be a deadly blood disease. Anaheim Police Lieutenant Peter Paala said. Orange County Deputy District Attorney Greg Prickett said charges of obtaining SX intercourse by false pretense and providing false information to police were filed against Borrow in North Orange County Municipal Court. He said Borrow's arraignment on the charges was continued at the request of Borrow's public defendant. Here's some of the other victims. Borrow, who was being held in the Orange County Jail, allegedly had SX with the women on March 20th. We're hoping that if there are other victims, they'll come forward to the police department at this time. The R by fraud charge is the first of its kind brought against Borrow, whose unusual method of operation prompted the writing of a new law in 1986 in the state of California. He's talking about state laws. He had previously been investigated for similar crimes, but an appeals court ruled that his alleged actions did not fall under the definition of R, with which he had been charged. The Orange County case is the most recent, involving Borrow, who allegedly posed as a doctor to trick women into paying him for SX. Police said that in both Orange County and the San Francisco Bay Area, Borrow randomly called women claiming to have results from blood tests and pap smears that showed the women to have a terrible disease. This is the whole alleged allegation against Boro. The women had two options: either to undergo a costly and dangerous operation or have sex with a man injected with a serum that would cure the women's problems, San Francisco Police Inspector Bob Hugel said. The purported doctor was the donor in all of the cases. This is Boro. Hugel said Boro of San Mateo was a good con man and was able to take information women would give during the course of a conversation and he would turn it around to make them believe they were ill, Hugel said. One woman took all of the money out of the bank she had. One woman even bought him a bottle of wine. Hugel said that in the 5 reported cases in San Francisco in 1984, women paid $900, $1,100, and $1,500 for sex. 2 of the women declined to pay. 3 of the women were in their 20s, 1 was in her 50s, and the 5th was in her 60s, Hugel said. But guess what? All 5 of the women were Asian. D. Paala said he did not know if the Orange County woman is Asian. So this guy is faking being a doctor, saying he has a cure, that these women, he's randomly calling these women. Evidently, he narrowed his market down to Asian women, because I think American black women for sure would not have gone for this, and probably most white women. So he narrowed it down to Asian women under these false pretenses, saying that you needed to have this special serum, and that it either had to come from a laboratory that cost thousands of dollars, or this one individual could give it the serum to them, but it would have to be through intercourse. And guess who was the one that was going to deliver the serum? This fake Dr. Boro. So most refused. Only a small percentage of the women contacted actually spoke to the suspect. Hugel said, explained that most women refused to discuss their personal test with an unknown doctor. Bay Area police had reports of 30 cases in which women received phone calls but hung up on the suspect. Those who did speak to him, Hugel said, really thought they were going to die. Hugel said Boro was arrested in 1984 in South San Francisco for R and fraud. He was subsequently charged with 5 other San Francisco Bay Area SX assaults, but was released when his conviction in the South San Francisco R case was thrown out on appeal, Hugel said. The San Francisco District Attorney did not pursue the other 5 counts because of the case law and because some of the victims refused to testify. The appellate court's ruling on Boro's case was on the basis for a law passed in 1986, 2 years later, making it a felony to use false information to obtain sex. Boro was being held on bail for $50,000 for the Orange County offense and a no-bail governor's warrant for incidences in Hawaii, authorities said. When arrested, Boro was free on bail for grand theft and terrorist threats in Hawaii, and grand theft charges in San Francisco that were unrelated to the SX incidents. Boro was also charged with committing crimes while free on bail and was facing other felony charges, Prickett said. If convicted in the Orange County case, he said Boro could be sentenced to 2 additional years. What an incredible story. This goes back 40 years. This scenario where this guy was faking to be a doctor. And you might say, well, how is that applicable to today? Well, today is so hard to date, to find a mate. It's not advantageous to date somebody at work because you can get involved with harassment issues, conflicts of interest. HR could come in. Most companies are not proponents of workplace relationships. Many people are busy with their children or doing other things, just trying to make it in today's time. And the easiest access to try to find someone is through internet dating. And this case is applicable because you never know who and what you're going to get. How to vet a person to see if they who truly are who they say they are. And in this particular situation, of course, social media didn't exist back in 1984, but you have this element of stranger danger where whether you meet somebody at a bar, at a party, at a friend or family member's house, is still strangers, and they still have to be vetted over a course of time to see if that stranger becomes a friend. And in this particular scenario, I think this gentleman is mentally ill. He has multiple charges that have been aligned against him, whether it was terrorist threats in Hawaii, theft, even while he was on bail, he was committing more crimes. And he is somebody that needs to be taken off the streets. Also, it makes you wonder, with him faking being a doctor, with the laws that ended up being on the books from 84 to 86, that under false pretense of who you are, to coerce a woman into a SX relationship, could that turn into an R situation? That's the peculiar question to ask, and that's why it's very important to know what are the laws on the books in your individual state. Is it SX by coercion? Is it SX by fraud? Those are the questions one has to ask. And I think this makes this case very unique, since he pretended to be someone that he wasn't, and even had these young ladies and lying and said they had this deadly disease. I think that he did cross the line of coercion. I don't know if it would be considered R, but there seems to be some fraudulent circumstances behind this that could lead to legal allegations and maybe a possible arrest, which is what actually happened. This is a cure fraud case where this guy, Mr. Borrow, faked being a doctor. They called him Dr. Feelgood. This was out in California almost 40 years ago. And just when you think that this case couldn't happen, I think it's definitely applicable in today's time. You have so much craziness going on. You never know if you really and truly know that person. And this man had a diabolical, conscious method that he thought out, processed out, and targeted certain women to get them to believe they had a deadly blood disease, and the only way that he could help them is to deliver this serum, either through costly laboratory situations or through SX, and it would be with him. What an incredible story. I really don't know how these women believed it. Evidently, he targeted primarily Asian women. Have they been over in this country for a long time? Were they not really aware of social cultural issues, and were they an easy target, which is what it seems to have been? Tell me what you think about this cure fraud case with Dr. Feelgood by this man named Borrow back in 1984, who ended up getting arrested for SX by fraud or SX by coercion. Those were the laws that ended up being on the books. And I think definitely he needed to be a guy that needed to be off the streets with his other alleged criminal activity. And I think it would have led to something even more serious if he had not been stopped. Tell me what you think about this case back in 1984. This Dr. Feelgood guy, this cure fraud case where this man had been charged with getting women to have SX as a treatment modality, with these women thinking they had a rare blood disease and they did not have it. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. As I say to you all the time, the unbelievable will become the believable, and the unseen will become seen. Keep your head on a swivel. Utilize your five senses, especially young ladies out here. This is a tough time to date, and there are many people that come with a chasm of chaos and not being truthful about who they are. But that can come in all shapes and sizes, and men and women can be untrustworthy. Tell me what you think. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience.